This lesson is on dashes, hyphens, ellipses, and parentheses. Let's get started. All right, we begin as always with a brief lesson overview. We're going to talk about what all of these things are and how to use them. We're going to talk about hyphens, ellipses, dashes, including both M dashes and N dashes. Yes, there's two different kinds of dash, and I will show you the difference. And we'll talk about parentheses, and then we'll do some practice. All right, to begin with, what is a hyphen? It's not the same thing as a dash. A hyphen is a small horizontal line used to connect words together into compound nouns and other constructions. It is not a dash and is incorrect to call it a dash. So, for example, let's look at the word self-esteem, which I can spell, thank you. See that little bitty line connecting self and esteem? That is a hyphen. Never, ever, ever call it a dash. We'll talk about actual dashes in a minute. All right, here are the rules for using hyphens. To determine whether a compound noun is two words, one word, or hyphenated, you may need to check a dictionary. Now, if you don't remember, a compound noun is a noun formed by sticking two or more words together. So, when in doubt, look it up. If it's not in your dictionary, write the compound noun as separate words. So, for example, the word eyewitness, meaning somebody who sees something personally, is one word. Eye socket, referring to the part of the skull, is two words. An eye opener, which means something that really gets your attention, is hyphenated. Frankly, there's no hard and fast rule for telling all of this stuff, so when in doubt, look it up. Now, phrases that have verb, noun, and adjective forms should appear as separate words when used as verbs, and as one word when used as nouns or adjectives. So let's take a look at the phrase break down. If we're using it as a verb, as in the sentence, I think your car is about to break down, you use it as two words. However, if you're using it as a noun, your car has had a breakdown, it becomes one word, no hyphen. And if you use it as an adjective, it's lucky you parked your car in the breakdown lane. Here, breakdown is an adjective describing lane. What kind of lane is it? The breakdown lane. Well, in that case, you also write it as one word because it's being used as an adjective. All right. How does this all relate to hyphens? I'm getting to it. Compound verbs, okay, verbs consisting of more than one word, are either hyphenated or appear as one word. You don't have a two-word compound verb. If it's not in the dictionary, hyphenate it. So, for example, close the door. I'm not air conditioning the neighborhood. I'm talking about the device that cools your house. This is something my mother used to say all the time. I would leave the front door standing open, and she would say, close the door. I'm not paying to air condition the neighborhood. Well, air condition can't be two words when you're using it as a verb. The only two-word verb phrases are helping verbs and main verbs, which are covered in the basic grammar course. So if you're just turning two words into a verb, you hyphenate it. But there are some words that sound like two words, some verbs that sound like two words, but are not hyphenated. They're really just one word. So I'm planning to upgrade my cell phone. It's used as one word. This is why I keep saying check the dictionary. Next, hyphenate between two or more adjectives when they come before a noun and act as a single idea. So, for example, we say a friendly-looking dog. Friendly looking is one whole phrase describing what kind of dog we're talking about. You don't say that it's a friendly dog and a looking dog. What is a looking dog anyway? But, if you look at it down here, a friendly little dog. In this case, little describes dog and friendly describes dog. You could say it's a friendly dog and it's a little dog. If you can put and in the middle, don't hyphenate it. A terribly friendly dog, on the other hand, well, friendly is an adjective describing dog, but terribly is an adverb modifying friendly, so you don't hyphenate that. But when you have two or more adjectives acting together, as in friendly looking, which all forms one big idea, then you hyphenate it. All right, next. When adverbs not ending in ly are used, remember most adverbs end in ly, but some of them don't. When the ones that don't are used as compound words in front of a noun, hyphenate it. When the combination of words is used after the noun, don't hyphenate it. So, for example, I enjoy a well-done steak. Well done becomes an adverb-adjective combination modifying steak. Well is the adverb, done is the adjective, and because they're both modifying steak, you hyphenate it. Because otherwise, if it's a well space done steak, then it is a well done steak. What's a done steak? Nobody knows what a done steak is because it's not a phrase in English. It makes no sense. So you hyphenate it, a well done steak. But when it's after the verb, the steak was well done. And you don't need the hyphens there because nobody's going to get confused about a done steak. Next, use a comma, not a hyphen, between two adjectives when you could insert and between them. So remember that friendly little dog, okay? A bright, sunny day. Sunny modifies day, and bright modifies day. So you could say a bright and sunny day, and you'd have the same meaning. So you use a comma, not a hyphen in that case. Similarly, an important classified document. Well, the document is classified, and the document is important. So you could say an important and classified document. You have the same meaning, so comma, no hyphen. Next, hyphenate all compound numbers from 21 through 99 and all spelled out fractions. That's the one with letters instead of numerals. So there are 64 crayons in this box. If you're going to write the word 64, hyphenate it. If you're going to write the numerals, just write them as numerals. You know how to write numerals. You need 2/3 of a cup of flour for this recipe. Again, you hyphenate it because it's a spelled out fraction. Next, you attach most prefixes and suffixes to their root words without a hyphen. So you turn compliance into non-compliance and you just stick it on there and you don't need a hyphen. Similarly, you turn payment into co-payment and 30 into 30-ish, and you don't really need a hyphen. But you do need a hyphen if you're adding on to a proper noun, if you're adding a prefix to a proper noun. So, for example, un-American. Why is that? Because it's not normally done to put a capital letter in the middle of a word. It just looks weird and freaks people out. And you can't uncapitalize a proper noun. One of the whole things about proper nouns, one of the things that makes them proper nouns is that you capitalize them. So you put a hyphen there, un-American, because you can hyphenate in the middle of the word if there's a hyphen right in front of it. You can capitalize in the middle of a word if there is a hyphen in front of the capital letter. All right. Hyphenate prefixes to avoid doubled letter A and a doubled letter I. Non-doubled vowels can fall together. Double E and double O are usually okay. So we don't say semi-invalid without the hyphen, because otherwise you have two I's next to each other, and that just freaks out English readers. Similarly, ultra-ambitious, but it's okay to say anti-aircraft. You've got two vowels together. Actually, you've got three, but because they're not the same, we can look at those and go anti-aircraft, and we know that the sound changes, and it doesn't freak us out too much. Proactive, similarly, we can tell that the sound is supposed to change, because when you have two vowels together, it kind of makes its own special sound, but that's when they're doubled. When they're different, in this case, we can pretty much figure it out. Preeminent, again, it reads pretty smoothly, so we don't need the hyphen. We used to, but not anymore. Coordinate, same thing, but there are some exceptions to this rule, words like de-emphasize or co-owner. Possibly because if you hand the word co-owner without the hyphen to a natural English speaker, they'll look at it and go, cooner? What's a cooner? And then everyone's just embarrassed. Next, hyphenate all words beginning with the prefix self, except for selfish and selfless. So when you talk about self-conscious, self-aware, self-evident, or a self-addressed envelope, you always use the hyphen because the prefix is self. Why is this a rule? English is crazy. All right. Also use the hyphen pretty much all the time with the prefix ex, at least if you're attaching it to a word that would normally be a word all by itself. If you're writing it at the beginning of the word exist or something, no, you don't need to hyphenate it. But in this case, I don't speak to my ex-husband. Husband is a word all by itself. We put X in front of it to change the meaning, so we hyphenate between the two. You also use the hyphen with the prefix re only when re means again, and when omitting the hyphen would cause confusion with another word. So, if we say, will she recover from her illness, we actually mean, will she get better? Re, in this case, does not mean again. However, in the second sentence, I recovered the chair with the cloth, Well, if you're covering it again, then re does mean again, so you can use the hyphen. And also, if you don't use the hyphen, they're going to think that you are healing the chair or that you are digging the chair out of the garbage, when in fact what you are doing is covering the chair for a second time. So to avoid confusion in this case, we use the hyphen. Similarly, I must have repressed that memory. Okay, you're not talking about doing something again, but when you're talking about ironing your shirt for a second time, I must repress the shirt. Again, re means again, and leaving the hyphen out would cause confusion with an existing word, so you hyphenate. All right, ellipses. For those of you who do not know what an ellipsis is, the singular is ellipsis, the plural is ellipses. An ellipsis, also called a dot dot dot, at least among American English speakers, is a line of 3 periods, sometimes 4, used to mark where a word, phrase, line, or paragraph has been omitted from a quoted passage. Basically, it means there's something missing here. When you're using an ellipsis, in general, use no more than 3 marks when the omission occurs in the middle of a sentence or between sentences. Sometimes you can get away with 4 in some styles, check your style guide, but as a rule, just use 3. So, for example sentence. The rule states, no animals are permitted in the store except for service animals such as seeing eye dogs. Now, in this case, in this sample sentence, we are quoting a rule, probably posted on a sign somewhere, but we haven't quoted the entire rule. We include this ellipsis to indicate, yeah, there's more here, we just haven't reproduced it. And again, we use only 3 dots. You also use an ellipsis when you omit 1 or more paragraphs within a long quotation. And when you do that, use ellipsis marks after the last punctuation mark that ends the preceding paragraph. So, if we're quoting Hamlet's speech, the very famous soliloquy, to be or not to be, that is the question. It ends with a semicolon, and then just to indicate that that the quotation went on after we stopped, we put the ellipsis after the punctuation mark to indicate there's more after this, we just haven't put it here. Next, dashes. Remember how I said never ever ever to call a hyphen a dash? Well, that's because a dash is its own special punctuation mark, and you're about to find out how it works. There are actually 2 kinds of dash in English punctuation. The most commonly used is called an em dash. It's a dash the width of the letter M, usually lowercase. It's used to show a pause or a digression in a sentence. An en dash is a little bit different. It's a dash the width of the letter N, so it's a little bit shorter. It almost looks like a hyphen. It's longer than a hyphen, but shorter than an em dash. Occasionally you have to get a little ruler out to measure your dashes, but once you get used to seeing the difference, you'll be able to pick it out pretty easily. An en dash is used to show a connection between 2 equivalent things, like dates of birth and death. So, for example, if you look up a person on Wikipedia who has died, there should be an en dash between the date they were born and the date they died, because those 2 dates are equally important, and that en dash shows a connection between them. It's also used for 2 teams playing each other in a sporting match. So, for example, you might talk about the England-Ireland football game, and you would put an en dash between the 2 of them to show that England and Ireland are equally important in this match. Although obviously if you're English or Irish, you would disagree with that statement. All right, so how do we use en dashes? You use an en dash for periods of time where you might otherwise use the word to. So, let's say you're writing about Oliver Cromwell, a figure from English history. He was born in 1594 and he died in 1658. So we have that little en dash in there. Take a good look at how long that is. Now, if you're ever trying to make an en dash, in Microsoft Word at least, you can make it by typing a space, 2 hyphens, and then another space. And then as soon as you start typing whatever is after the second space, it'll make a nice little en dash for you. Handy trick. You may also use an en dash for combining open compounds, joining 2 entities of equal importance. So if we talk about the US-Mexico border, you use an en dash to join those 2 ideas because the 2 countries are equally important when you're talking about the border. Similarly, if you're talking about the UCLA-USC game, a very contentious football game played in Los Angeles, you put the en dash in the middle to show that you're not taking sides between the 2 teams. They're both equally important to the game. All right, now we come to em dashes. Use an em dash sparingly in formal writing. It indicates a pause or a digression, so you don't want to go off track too much when you're writing academic writing or a business letter or something like that. In informal writing, em dashes may replace commas, semicolons, colons, and parentheses to indicate added emphasis, an interruption, or an abrupt change of thought. So, for example, you are my friend, my best friend, and I will help you. In this case, we use that longer em dash, which, by the way, in Microsoft Word is created by stopping whatever word you were typing, immediately typing 2 hyphens, typing something else, and as soon as you hit the space bar after the something else, it'll create an em dash. So, you are my friend, my best friend, I am emphasizing that point, and I will help you. Okay? Look at the next sentence. I need 3 items from the store: apples, cheese, and bread. In this case, we're indicating a pause between store and apples when this sentence would be spoken, and the em dash is doing about the same job as a colon. Now we look at the third sentence. I wish you would, oh, who's that at the door? This is somebody who lost their train of thought. They changed the subject very abruptly, and the em dash indicates that train of thought. I wish you would, oh, who's that at the door? Final sentence. I do the work, he gets the credit. Once again, it indicates a pause, and it does about the same job as a semicolon. So you can see it creates a more informal tone that's very useful in some kinds of writing, but frowned upon in serious academic and business writing. All right. Parentheses. We all love parentheses. Use parentheses to enclose words or figures that clarify or are used as an aside. Parentheses basically make a little tangent. So, for example, you owe me $300. And then in parentheses, you spell it out in numerals just in case this person doesn't understand what the words mean. Second example, Sherlock Holmes announced, after an hour of furious thinking and smoking, that he knew the killer. So in this case, we're taking a little tangent in the middle of the sentence to add all this information about what Sherlock Holmes was doing during the hour between, I must think about this, and aha, I know. So it adds extra information. It goes on a tangent. You also use parentheses to enclose numbers or letters used for listed items. So we need a dog that can 1. Guard the house, 2. Keep us company, and 3. Leave the cat alone. So again, we have the numbers for the numbered list, and they're enclosed in a pair of parentheses each. If you're using parentheses, periods go inside the parentheses only if an entire sentence is inside the parentheses. So let's look at how this works. Please read my letter. It is enclosed. In this case, it's not a complete sentence inside the parentheses, so you put a period on the outside. But if you say, please read my letter, period, capital I, it is enclosed, the period goes inside the parentheses. Or you could just say, please read my letter, enclosed. The word enclosed is not a sentence by itself, so the period goes on the outside of the parentheses. All right, let's do a little bit of practice with all these different forms of punctuation. Take a look at these sentences and tell me what kind of punctuation needs to go in each of these sentences. Juliet's speech is as follows. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? The farm lies near the Texas-Oklahoma border. I think and I hope I am right in thinking that you will help me in this task. No movie is more beloved than The Wizard of Oz, 1939. You are surprisingly self-assured. He was a tall, sinister-looking fellow. The well-known actor accepted the Oscar. You have broken 23 bones. He is semi-illiterate. He can barely read. Fred plans to restore the painting. And I hope to restore my belongings in your garage. Take a good look. Pause the video, scan back if you need to check something. Are you ready? Let's take a look at the answers. All right. Juliet's speech is as follows. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Well, the key word in here was speech. Generally speaking, you have more than one sentence in a speech, so you knew that there was something that was being omitted. So you need that ellipsis after the question mark to indicate that her speech goes on, you're just not reproducing it here. Second sentence, the farm lies near the Texas-Oklahoma border. Here we include an N dash because we're talking about two entities of equal importance and we're connecting them with that little mark. Next sentence, I think and I hope I am right in thinking that you will help me in this task. Well, we took a little tangent in the middle of that sentence, didn't we? A somewhat emphatic one. So we set it off with a pair of M dashes. Next sentence. No movie is more beloved than The Wizard of Oz, 1939. Well, that 1939 is extra information at the end of the sentence, so we stick the year in parentheses, just in case anybody doesn't know what year The Wizard of Oz came out. Next sentence. You are surprisingly self-assured. Well, remember, you use a hyphen after self in pretty much any word that's not selfless or selfish, so of course, self-assured gets hyphenated. Next. He was a tall, sinister-looking fellow. Once again, we use the hyphen between sinister and looking because the two of them together create a single idea, modifying fellow. So we have a compound adjective there. Next, the well-known actor accepted the Oscar. Same idea. We have an adverb and an adjective modifying actor. The two of them together create one idea. It comes before actor, so you hyphenate it. Next, you have broken 23 bones. This is a compound number, so of course you put a hyphen between 20 and 3. Next, he is semi-illiterate. He can barely read. Semi-illiterate would have to be hyphenated because otherwise you would have two I's right next to each other, and that's a big no-no in standard written English. Next sentence. Fred plans to restore the painting. Trick question. Remember how I said that you use re and you hyphenate it if re means again, and if it's necessary to avoid confusion with an existing word? Well, restore, all by itself, already means fix something, put it back the way it was. You don't need to hyphenate it because that's already what it means. So when we're talking about restoring a painting, brightening up the colors, removing dirt, we don't hyphenate it. But in our second sentence, I hope to restore my belongings in your garage. I hope to store my belongings in your garage again. Re definitely means again, and since we're not talking about taking dirt off a painting, we need to hyphenate it to avoid confusion. And that's all for this lesson. Thank you for watching.